Hey everyone, Greg here. As you may know by now, I'm the co-founder and CEO of TripShock, an online reseller for water sports and tours. For the past 12 years, we've had the pleasure of working with hundreds of operators across the country, and we're looking to grow our community. It's free to sign up, and you only pay when we bring you confirmed bookings. We'll help you reach new customers, fill empty seats, and grow your business like so many have done with us over the years. Head over to partners.tripshock.com to learn more about our program, read testimonials, or speak directly with our supply team. As always, thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
They come to relax, enjoy the beach, have fun, and spend money. And that's where we come in. This is the Awkward Watersport Guys podcast. Find out tips on the best ways to market and operate a water sports business. If you're a water sports operator, you need to grow your brand, operate more safely, upgrade your operations, and of course, increase bookings. We're industry veterans, broadcasting from Destin, Florida. This is the Awkward Watersport Guys podcast. And this is Kevin O'Neill and Greg Fisher.
Kevin, before we start, we need to take a step back and talk about our personal lives a little bit because, you have some big news.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, we had another baby, the baby Atlas, man. 9 pounds, 20 inches. Atlas Tyson, named after the Titan who carried the world on his shoulders. And in my opinion, the greatest boxer to ever step in the ring, Mike Tyson.
Are you joking or are you serious?
No, it's 100% true. Yeah. Atlas Tyson, man. It's my first son. I've got a 13-year-old. I got a 6-year-old. Now we got she's about to be 6'5". And then, my first boy, man. Yeah.
That's a big boy.
My wife was in labor for an hour.
Wow.
She was done, man, but she was done after he came out. She was like, I've never seen her. My wife is a pretty strong woman, man. And she definitely showed it on her face, some pain, the other night. So no, I'm really excited and I'm super happy and super blessed. And it's been amazing, man. It's been a hell of a year.
Yeah, I know. So what advice would you give an operator that's starting a family right now? Man, normally I'd have something funny here to say, but what I would say is try everything you can do to possibly keep that separate, and that's vice versa. So when you don't bring your work home and don't bring your families your family headaches down to the dock. So if you're dealing with COVID, increase in demand, having a child, I would not recommend doing all those things at once. I'd space it out, but if you absolutely have to, like I did, try and keep those things separate as much as humanly possible. Because a lot of times I come home and I'd be super stressed out. My wife would be feeling it. And then I come down to the docks and my whole crew would be feeling it. As I felt like there's this sort of nowhere to get away from all the madness. But now that it's done, man, it's just amazing. I love that's part of the reason I'm in this game. I love going down there. My kids are in my marketing. If you go to my website, that's my daughter down at the bottom she's on a floating unicorn, inflatable unicorn. It's on the footer of every single one of our pages. She's on our Facebook. My kids are everywhere. My daughter, I used to let her drive a parasail boat when she was 7. So that's a big part of the reason that fuels my obsession and drive is to have them be a part of this whole lifestyle. So it's awesome, man. Do your kids always say that they want to work for you or my kids constantly tell me that they want to work for TripShock or own a business together. So I love we're putting that in their heads early on that, they don't have to go traditional routes, go to college and work for the man. They actually can, do cool things. They don't have to be 40, 50 years old to start a business. They can jump right into it if they have the right guidance and mentorship. Yeah. So, Kevin has big news, and my wife and I, we decided to move right during the hottest real estate market. It's been a blessing and a curse because we got a beautiful home on the bay, but I'm sure you all know, because many of you are probably making updates to your location,
that lumber is like 4 times the price. Contractors are charging through the roof for every little thing. So we're just trying to get through the next few months. So prices, I don't even know. I mean, with interest rates so low, people are, they're wanting to get all this stuff done on their home. They're wanting to buy homes. I'm selling my house. I got my new home that I'm working on. So, man, Kevin and I we're crazy busy. And somehow we find ways to get on this podcast and share. But honestly, the podcast is somewhat a way to release a little bit of stress. I mean, just talking, taking a break from everything and just chatting. Like I wasn't sure if you were going to be able to even be on the show this week if we had to postpone, but here you are.
No way, man. I love it. I love it. This is like one of my favorite things in water sports, man. I was talking to a guy from the group last night via text, and my wife was like all cuddled up on me. We were watching a movie. It's like the first time, like the baby was like in the last 3 days. I mean, me and my wife actually haven't had an alone like trip or anything like that, like gone just anywhere, probably in like 7 or 8 years. And you know where we went? We went to Orlando the last. I mean, if I would have done Disney. If we had to redo it, I definitely would have done Disney. But yeah, man, we were sitting there, and then somebody messaged me from the group, asking me about insurance. I was like, 1 second, baby, I got to talk to this guy. Because it's cool. Because it's like I had a lot of great mentors in this business, and I still, to this day, I can call up those mentors, and they'll give me advice, they'll give me help, they can answer questions for when I don't have them. So I definitely want to give that back for people that are getting into the business that don't know, because it's like it preserves our industry. If you have good operators doing good things and doing the right things, then we're going to have less accidents. You're going to have better quality trips. Like it's going to raise the entire industry. So any chance I have an opportunity where somebody asks me a question or needs some guidance or help, if I don't have the answer, then I can definitely put them in contact with the right people that do. So in that regard, I think that myself and you, both, we look at I don't even know what to call it. Like because I don't necessarily look at it as competition. I don't think you do either. We look at the industry with like this, I don't know, just a different way than typically what our industry looks at each other.
There's so much opportunity. There's so many customers out there. Everyone's going to get their fair share. I don't even get upset anymore when it comes to like, oh, did I lose out on a booking, or did I lose out on a opportunity to partner with somebody? That doesn't even get me upset anymore. Like I just like, there's so many people that want to work with Trip Shock. There's so many people that want to book with us, that if we lose a few, I'll get over it, and that's just the way things are. But I mean, as long as they're going to go to a company or work with a company that is going to treat them right, like that's all that matters to me. I mean, I just want everyone to do well, because if you have that attitude, then your business will grow. If you have that attitude, if you get upset every time you lose a customer or your competitor, takes more market share, then you're going to find yourself in a dark place real soon. Let's jump into it. So we're going to talk about refunds and cancellations today.
Terrible. I hate that you did this. It's my fault. I was actually the one. I think I called. I think I said refunds. I think this was actually my idea. I did it to us.
Oh, the refunds and cancellations
for today. Yeah, it's been like I felt like we called it on ourselves, man. Like brought the juju, because Greg, like right before the show, Greg was saying like, and like we have a cold front moving in, so we've been getting a ton of cancellations and rebookings. Like I have this tendency of looking at my payouts and my emails, and just when they start flooding in, I'm like, yes, and then like once I have it, it's so painful to let go. But sometimes it's in the best interest of your business to let it go. Sometimes it's not.
When it comes to refunds and cancellations, what are some hot, subtopics that?
Well, weather, that's always a big one. How do the big boys do it? How do they deal with refunds and cancellations? How do we differentiate ourselves from the big boys? When people are looking for mom and pop, they expect to have a little bit more of a like flexibility. I feel like with that, they're a little bit closer to you. But at the same point in time, if you have aspirations of scaling and growing your business, you do have to operate a little bit like the major players out there, the Disney worlds, as we like to talk about in the show often. Yeah. So it's a delicate balancing act, and there's dissatisfied customers. There could have been a reason, like an employee. There's a million reasons why people ask for a refund. If there's any customers or people listening to this, by the way, the best way to get a refund is with honey, never with vinegar. Because I'm always going to be much more flexible with refunds when we're having a conversation. When you're demanding it and it's against some of our policies, and I'm a little bit more apt to hold on. Well, what's your policy, Greg? What's your policy on weather? Let's do weather, because that's probably the big one.
Yeah. So obviously, when it comes to Trip Shock, we always look at what our vendors' policies are. Like, we don't create the policies for you. So if you tell us 48 hours, then that's what we do. So if I put my operator hat on and I'm dealing with a weather cancellation, a few things that are going to come to mind. First of all, I want to take a step back and revisit cancellation policies, because that's going to play a big role in our discussion on this. There always the question is, what should I offer for a cancellation policy? The easier way to think about it is demand for your product. I don't think there should be a one size fits all cancellation policy, but it is pretty complicated to change it mid-season, or it's easier just to keep one. But if you had the flexibility to, I would do different ones. When we get into the summer, when there's more demand, I would increase it. I would, especially if you're renting boats or skis or something with very limited inventory, you'd want to see a higher one, like 48 hours, 72 hours, or even further. But once you get in the off season, when you have a lot of availability, I would even say to go down to 24 hours or even same day. We do a lot of bookings, probably, somewhere in the ballpark, of 1 million customers a year. And I'll tell you, better converting listings have shorter cancellation windows. We always try our hardest to get our partners to do shorter cancellation windows, because the conversion is much better. There is a data-driven thing that people want more flexibility. Just look, you never know what could happen with kids on vacation from day to day. Families like the flexibility. They won't want to be locked in on a 72-hour cancellation policy. What if the weather's not good and it really changes? Typically with weather, you really only know about 48 hours out what the weather's going to be. Sometimes not even that in Florida. Like, there's one day last week where it turned out being beautiful when they thought it was going to be bad. So when it comes to cancellation policies, when it comes to limited inventory things like boats, skis, it's all demand should drive that cancellation policy. Now with like multi-passenger vessels like dolphin cruises, when there's a lot of capacity, 24 hours absolutely at the most 24 hours. In some sense, I think even like a same day, like a 4 hour, 6 hours, even better if you want conversion. Now, again, if you're really busy, then you're going to push that cancellation policy out, because you can, because your boats are filling up. But cancellation policy is very simple. As demand increases, go further out. You don't need to have people canceling last minute when you have really high demand. It's too complicated, and you just don't need to do it. You want to drive conversion, especially when things are slower. So that's cancellation policy 101. When it comes to refunds, when people are calling, when I had my jet ski rental operation, I was extremely flexible, probably more flexible than anyone else is. When people call last minute, I usually would just say, fine, you can cancel. And the reason why I took that approach is because, one, charging their card when they are not present and can't sign for it, you're going to lose that dispute. And I'll tell you, people will be like, fine, whatever, charge my card. I'm not going to make it. They're going to sound all sweet on the phone about it. And then 2 days later, I get an email that they are disputing the charge, even though they agreed to it.
Well, I charge in full, like, because there's so much online, we do so much online booking. And I've talked about this before, that for whatever reason, I just don't do a ton of phone bookings. I don't know why. I'm probably, I don't know, in the bottom like 1%. I love it. I'm so happy with it. But so for the most part, because people book online, they do read our stipulations. So when people do cancel, man, they get it right in there. Like right now we're 48 hours and they'll call it 49 hours. Like, for whatever reason, man, like, I feel like my customers are the greatest customers of all time. Like, they completely know what they're getting themselves into. So I'm super flexible with my cancellation policy, but sometimes I'm not. Even like my manager today is like, so we're real hard nosed on it. I'm like, no, I'm actually not. But it's like, so today it was chilly, but my phones were blowing up, so that just means I know we were missing tons of online bookings. So it's 65 degrees. So somebody went out there, and they always do the same thing. So again, I might be a little bit more soft about the customers, but when they do, they always act as though their life was in danger. no matter what. Today, it was cold. That's all it was. And they were like, oh, my life is in danger. I'm like, life is in danger of what? Like, hypothermia at 65 degrees. What are you talking about? There's no lightning. There's no rain. It's just chilly and overcast. So that's usually what people do. So yeah, the people actually left, went out, got out there, it was too cold for them. And then they wanted to come back and have a refund. And I'm just like, no.
Do you prorate?
I'm sorry. What do you mean by that? What do you mean prorate?
Do you prorate the trip? Back. So if let's say that, they come back and it's too cold or the rain, like you cut it in half.
Well, no, absolutely not. No, I don't. Because at the end of the day, a lot of times with rain, we tell them if it's raining, we'll tell them, hey, this is the situation. We'll give them the opportunity right there to cancel. So it's like, if you want to cancel and go, that's no problem. We get it. It's raining. If it's chilly out, like, because the way I look at it is that we're cheating out the customer that totally wants to go, that doesn't care. Like, I'm that guy. Like, if I went to a water park and it was overcast and cold and my kids are having a good time, or they just, you know what I mean? I'm going to make the most of it, period. So I'm out there. There's somebody like me that wants to go out there and do it. So I'm not going to rob them because it's not perfect. It's not to your, the perfect Florida day that you want, because there's literally hundreds of boats out there, or hundreds of people in dolphin boats, or hundreds of people on. I mean, I've had people where I'm like, look, man, you can't go. We're canceling. We're refunding. And they're like, no, we want to go. So I'm not going to rob that person of their good time. You took that boat. You went out there. You did that. And then now that person can't go out there, and they would have been completely content. Now we talked about in one of the other episodes, we do have a trip protection. You got everything in your power to make sure that you could have canceled or done whatever it was that you needed to do, but to get on the boat, to not call us, to go out there and then go be like, it's too cold, and then come back and demand a refund. I said, look at what WWWD, man. What would Walt Disney do? And once you go through that gate, they don't even give you rain checks. And we do offer that. Hey, I'll give you a rain check. I'll do you a gift certificate. And we do offer that, but I'm not gonna lose my boat.
Yeah. So if they come back early, there's nothing. I mean,
game over.
I appreciate that, because it's got to be a difficult situation.
If it's raining, yes. Like, if somebody goes out there and we send them out there and it's a shit show, yeah. But if it's a little chilly, then, like, come on, man. Like, that's, yeah. You can't come back if it's a little cold. You knew the weather ahead of time. Listen, I will tell people, I'll say I am just as reasonable. I am just as reasonable as you are. So what I mean by that is that if I go, hey, I think it's just going to be a little bit rainy out there, it'll be fine. You'll have a great time. You go out there and get downpoured on and come back, I'm going to work something out for you. I'll give you half your money back. I'll prorate you for sure. But today is just like one of those days. Like, there's plenty of people that would have went out. Now, there's not plenty of people when it's pouring ass rain. You know what I mean? I'm not going to do that. So if it's raining, it's different. But a little bit chilly, like, try and go to Disney World or a plane ticket, or I mean, literally anything else. Walk through the door and ask for, some type of money back or something like that. I mean, it's never going to happen. So again, you have to be reasonable as a operator, but I think the customer has to demonstrate a little bit of reasonability as well. Now, again, same thing. Now, if the customer comes back and, we're having a conversation, it's a lot different if they come back demanding a refund. If you're being, like, verbally abusive, if you're, like, yelling at people, if you're demanding something, we are family, mom and pop. So there is flexibility there, but it's also going to depend on the person. If they're going to come in and, like, demand shit, then I'm not going to play ball. But if you're nice, if you email me and explain the situation, okay. But if we try and give you everything that you possibly can, like, hey, because there's a lot of companies that don't even do that don't get zero rain checks, that, so I also think it's what the market's doing as well. So it's pretty nuanced.
I like what you said, that how you kind of discuss it in the beginning when they come and say, hey, it's cold, or it's going to rain, or the conditions aren't going to be like the best for boating, but they're safe. You kind of get it out in the beginning, and allows them to make a decision most of the time, if all their group is there, I can't see them saying, "Oh, we're not going to do it." Like, it's going to take a lot for someone to say no when they've already probably put a lot of thought into going on this trip. But I love how you say that, because when they do come back, it's like, listen, we had this conversation. You also had an opportunity to buy trip protection, which, the trip protection, we talked about it in another, we offered it on Trip Shock. You offer it direct, and they pay an additional amount, and then they can cancel up to the last minute and get their money back. So they have the ability to look at the weather, get there and decide, hey, we don't want to do this. And they can leave and get all their money back.
So with that said, I'm going to revisit that. I'm a little bit hardcore right now, because I literally, like, right before we got on air, my guy's like calling me, and he's like, "Oh, now she's calling and yelling at us." And I'm just like, I'm not going to do it. Nope. So because, again, I know how this market is too, though. I mean, I see operators that on the top of their webpage, by the way, this is a really bad idea, that your biggest call to action is telling people you will not give them a refund if it rains. Like, I know an operator right at the top of their page, it's like, "If it rains, we're not giving you a refund," on their homepage. Like, dude, what a welcome. Welcome. You get no refund if it rains. Fuck you. It's like, it's so like terrible idea, guys. You don't want to put like a really hard-nosed, strict cancellation policy right on your homepage. Bad idea. But like I said, I will tell people right out of the gate, "Hey, this is what I think." Like, or if it's dangerous, I'm straight up canceling. We're going to give you money back, no conversation. It's too crappy. But if it's like one of those, like, "Man, it's going to rain. Like, I just don't know how great it's going to be out there for you guys," you might want to consider going another day. I'm very upfront when it comes to weather. But at the same point in time, again, it's got to be reasonable for both ways. If you go out there and they're calling for 0.07 inches of rain, and it's a 30% chance, which means there's like a cloud is going to pass through, and it might rain for 5 minutes while you're on your parasail or dolphin or fishing trip. Like, there's a great example. I've been on some of the worst fishing trips ever. $1,000 private charter, $1,100 private charter, pouring ass rain, nothing. So, hey man, it is what it is. Sorry. There's like nothing we can do to control the weather. And I don't like when that happens to me. So I always try to treat my customers as though I wanted to be treated. But again, it's not a one size fits all. So
the theme here is communication up front, is making sure they know up front what to expect if there's weather, and having them an option to mitigate that, like the trip protection is just one way for them to secure their booking.
That's a big one. With the trip protection, like, now I feel like it's like, well, we gave you an out for like $25. Like, you had an out and then you didn't use it. Like, if we set that precedent, then what does it mean for all the customers that bought it, didn't use it, or the customers that bought it and used it? Well, why even have bought it if we just would have, it was going to be cold anyway, so he would have just canceled. You know what I mean? That's not fair to them. So again, it's like, sometimes I think about that other customer, it's just like, well, if you bitch enough, then you're just going to get what you want. Like,
so let's talk about that customer real quick, because when I had my business, I didn't want to deal with that customer. Like, it was worth it for me because we didn't get a lot of them. I mean, and for me, I feel like this person's probably going to dispute. They're probably going to blow up the email. They're probably going to call 100 times. I don't want to even go down that road. And I just refund them and move on. What is the
cost benefit?
Yeah, cost benefit. Yeah.
Well, I agree with that too. Man, you're gonna get this lady her $500 back, dude. I swear to God, man. I'm like out there. I'm like, you know what? Just get refund her.
Yeah, but how much is your time worth going back and forth with your manager when he could be? He's probably busy. He could be doing other things and dealing with this.
Not that busy.
Not that busy. What?
Not for $500, dude. You know what I mean? $50, sure. 500? No, man. Like, it's like, again, if it was like a half day boat, like maybe, but it's like, that's like all of our time, all of our resources. And then also you staff your employees. So it's like, that would be like me going to my employee and being like, well, we refunded a bunch of boats today. I guess we didn't need you. Thanks for the 4 hours, but you're not getting paid.
Yeah.
It's
but
like,
but not every customer is like probably this one lady you're dealing with right now. Most are probably
I'm not dealing with her.
I'm on a podcast.
But I'll tell you, like at Trip Shock, a lot of times when we have a really unruly customer, we won't even tell our partner that we refunded them. We still pay them out because they blow us up. And we had one customer that called us like every hour for like several days straight. I mean, literally, it was like $30. It was awful. And I don't know if it was the principal or the money, but if you add up all the time, she brought like 30 employees into this and calling us all the time. And after that situation, I started to change my viewpoint because I'm realizing, well, wait a minute, I'm paying all my team hourly. They're missing out on new reservation calls because we're having to have like meetings about this one customer. Those are the things I think about is we need to figure out how to mitigate these situations. We have to look at the hourly cost of dealing with this person. At the end of the day, if I would have refunded her just from the start, I probably would have saved thousands of dollars in labor.
Well, that's pretty extreme. I mean, that's pretty insane. You know what I mean? Like, I think after the 5th or 6th call or something like that, I'm like, fuck it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
At the same time, though, it's like, so when I'm talking, like the first thing my manager said to me today was, he's like, I think she's going to blast us no matter what. I'm like, so if I give her her money back, and there's some people, and I'm not going to, like, at year 1, I did, year 2, I did, year 3, I stopped. Like, I'm not going to be held hostage over a review. Like, I'm just not, you know, and I've been to those people and they have like left the bad review standing. And it's just, I'm not going to do it. Like, you know, if you're going to blast my brand, if you're going to give me a 1-star review and I'm going to fucking pay for it regardless, then I'm keeping your fucking money. No way. Like, now again, it's just, it becomes the battle, you know, it's like, well, if you just went about it a different way, there's a million things that could have gone down this way, like a better way of handling this or dealing with it. Or again, if you just would have just honey, it'd be fine. Yeah. But if we give them every option in the world, like I also feel like if you're offering gift certificates, you know, like let's say we're giving them, you know, an additional 10% and they're still saying no, like it becomes this tug of war. Like, again, like you have to ask yourself, like, there's certain companies where they're not going to do it. You can call customer service all day long. Like Disney's one of them. Like once you go through that gate, they are not going to refund your money. Like you have 30 days to use the pass. That's their cancellation policy. But once you go through the gate, that's it. Like you're not going to get your money back if it rains. And I mean, I know like a lot of operators in Key West are the same way, man. Like, but I mean, on a like, oh man, maybe you should just give them their money back. This is pretty terrible situation. So again, I always try and treat people how I want to be treated. And I think I'm a pretty fair person, pretty reasonable human being when it comes to that sort of stuff. Like I look at all angles, but not everybody does. They just sort of like, you know, they live in this bubble of the customer's always right, which I agree with you about like 99.9% of the time up until you're not. You know what I mean? If you go out and destroy my stuff, you're going to pay for it. So I don't see the difference there, especially with the boat rental thing. You know, if they go and if they fucking beat up your boat, they got to pay for it, right? You know, and even there, I'm flexible. Accidents happen. I completely understand. So, but to everybody that is like hardcore on that, like, oh, it's raining, I don't care, you're not getting your refund. I think that's a bad look. You're going to rack up a lot of bad reviews, and there's a lot of great customers out there that are willing to, you know, deal with just about anything if you're fair with them. You know, if it's crappy and it's shitty and it's like there's lightning 8 miles out, you know, well, 7 miles out, I don't have to cancel. My insurance is still going to cover me. But 8 miles out is still kind of crappy. You know what I mean? It's raining. So
during COVID, we learned a lot about human character when it came to refunds. I was really impressed how many took a gift card instead of a refund. And we did hundreds of thousands of dollars in refunds in a short period of time. You know, from that, one of the things we took away is a lot of times people would take a gift card or a partial gift card, maybe refund half. I'll take the other half as a gift card. And when there's weather, I think that's a perfect opportunity to offer, you know, a credit or a voucher, even for more than what it was purchased for. Just a way to retain the money. Now you're going to have to redeem it, but let's think about it. Some people don't come every year. It might be 2-3 years down the road. They might not even use it. I mean, the redemption rate, I'm sure, might be favorable to the business. But for like one tour operator in Destin, they have a dolphin sightseeing cruise. If someone cancels inside the cutoff or they miss the boat, they do a free voucher for the year. They can use it anytime within a year.
Yeah.
And I think that's a phenomenal way to deal with the situation, because one, people, they miss the boat. And with the traffic, I don't think a lot of tourists understand how bad the traffic can be in any really tourist destination. They get here and they look at Google Maps and say it takes 30 minutes, but really it takes an hour because they don't take in consideration the traffic. So it's a bummer already. So the last thing you want to see is like you missed the boat, your kids are disappointed, and then you're stuck with this $200 bill. And I think it's really good on the businesses to say, you know what, either one, we can reschedule you at a slower time where they have seats, especially like multi-passenger tours. I mean, if you have a tour, like a day tour that doesn't fill up, what is it to put these people on? Like, I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
And if this is our last day, a voucher goes so long. It's a great, service recovery tool. They can use it for a year. They might not even use it, but the fact that it wasn't lost, or even if it's 50% of the cost, I think would be even appropriate. But you got to think, you're trying to build a brand. Like, this show is not about building a commodity business. I think we made that pretty clear. This show is about building a brand. By building a brand, it's going to start with, how do you handle these difficult situations? And I wouldn't say this is even a difficult, it should be a no-brainer, but that's something you got to instill in your employees. They got to be on the same page, because I'll tell you, there's times we have some really big clients that we work with at Trip Shock, and some of them, one day they're doing one type of service recovery method, and the other day they're not doing cancellation refunds at all. I mean, you got to stay consistent if you're going to go with one or the other.
And again, man, I don't want to like poo-poo on customers or poo-poo on people asking for refunds or whatever. I've had these conversations with people when I was handling the phones, handling all the refunds. And it's like one thing we talk about, like, especially with like upsells and, the way like buying things online, the culture of buying things online. People are used to a certain policies, right? When they're buying stuff, they see the Amazon, you can add stuff, we talked about in the upsells. So like this, it gets in the mind of the buying purchase and the purchaser's journey.
Like free shipping. Like I think
right.
People expect that now.
Right.
Yeah.
So with that said, people also know that on perishable services, like tours or boat rentals, you don't buy a ticket to the movie, not show up to the movie and get a refund. You don't buy the ticket. They fucking know. They know. And I've argued with people before where I've just been like, hey man, like if you missed your seat to your airline, would you call up American Airlines, the Northwest, and fight with them? Fuck no, you wouldn't, because you know the policy. If you don't show up and you miss the bus, that's it. I'm sorry. But because we're mom and pop operators, and I've had people, and I'm just going to call them what they are. They're cocksuckers. That's what they are. They're fucking, I have no other fucking cocksuckers. You have to edit that out, because that's not the proper nomenclature. I'll tell you what they are. They're assholes. They're assholes. They are. They know that, like, they're talking to the owner, because that's every time I had somebody like, oh, I'm a small business owner too, and every time I said the same thing. So you don't rake Amazon over the coals. You're not going to call, but you call and fight with me, because at the end of the day, I'm the guy who presses the button. I'm the guy who's got the bank account. So I feel like people that try to exploit our cancellation policies, even that they know what those policies are, like, how we feed our employees and our families and everything. Like, the biggest people that are going to fight are going to fight because they know that we're mom and pop. They know that they're speaking to the owner directly. I don't work for American Airlines or a movie theater. I don't know what, but again, I think in the buying culture, if the people do know what these policies are, and they know they get somewhere with us, but they won't get there with other people. So it's all situation dependent. If somebody calls me up, and I've had people that have been like, man, you guys are just the greatest. You have the best cancellation policy. It's like, well, yeah, you talked to me like a human being. You didn't yell at me. You didn't send me a nasty email. Like, we had a conversation. You explained your situation. I took care of it. Done and done. Like, I have no problem doing that. So again, it's gonna also be how, I will bend that cancellation policy if it's a customer I'd like to deal with in the future.
I also think it's an art for some people to take a pissed off person and to dial them down a little bit.
Yep.
And I've had situations where the first 5 minutes was screaming. Mm-hmm. Once they got that out, we had a conversation and we were able to come to a settlement, I guess you could say, about
they go high, you go low. It's like negotiating.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I always expect the end result's going to be a credit card dispute. I always expect the end result to be that. And I'm only going to win 50% of those. But the worst part is I'm going to pay $15, the dispute fee that the credit card company typically charges, and it ranges up to $30 depending on your processor. And then I have to have someone actually respond to it, which costs money. Sometimes it can cost up to $100 in labor. So I already lost. I already lost. When they dispute, I lose. Even if I get the money back. Now the partner may get their funds back, right, but Trip Shock, we lose. So I really try. And plus with the, Kevin, you don't want to deal with that shit. Like that's an admin nightmare. So the whole, when I'm discussing something with somebody, I don't tell them, oh, you're going to, are you going to dispute it? I don't put those words in his mouth or his head, but I'm expecting him to, if this fails, because it's so easy. You can log onto your online bank account or your credit card account, and you go find the transaction, hit the dispute button, fill out a couple forms, and it's done. The next day, the money leaves your bank account for that trip. Total bullshit. It's the thing that really unnerves me, because we get hundreds of these a year and a lot of frivolous.
I get very few.
You get very few. You're fortunate.
Very, very, very few disputes.
But I think, Kevin, a lot has to do with how you deal with your customers. I think that I honestly talk to others that deal with this on a regular basis. I know that that's how I look now. Debit cards, they're much more difficult to fight. It's the credit cards that are easy. Like if you have an American Express or like a Visa card, they will do anything to please their card holders. You're going to expect to get a fight with someone that has one of those cards. But debit cards, hell, I bought my wife bought a little toy radio controlled dog from some random online store. And we got the dogs. My daughter thought it was something different. And when we turned the thing on, it started singing in Chinese. And she broke down, started crying. But I told Christine, we need to get our money back. The people said, nope, we're not going to give your money back. They totally lied on the whole thing. It was a big scam. But my bank, she always uses our American Express, but for some reason she used the MasterCard debit card. The bank just would not challenge it at all. So that's just something I thought was interesting. So when people use those Visa, MasterCard, business cards, American Express, that's when it's harder. They want to protect their cardholders' interest. They'll frivolously dispute things and they'll win. But we typically see about like a 50% win rate, and we do it really well. And that's what you should see. But at the same time, you want to avoid going down that road, because if you win, you still somewhat lose because you got to deal with it. And then if they do lose the dispute, meaning that you get the money back, now they're going to go back on and trash your business. So
the thing you can do to fight, it's going to be harder with like smaller, but if like all the information that you can get on people, if somebody's going on a parasail boat or a head boat, it's not like you can get their fucking, driver's license or something like that. But, for us, for our business, for the rentals, we get copies of their driver's license. But I even lost a dispute where a lady, she had we had a copy of her driver's license. And I actually messaged her privately and I was just like, hey, I don't know why you're disputing this, but you're going to lose because I have your driver's license. Like she was claiming it was a fraudulent claim. It was like the credit card and your driver's license are on the same number or the same name. And they sided with her. I was like, what? I'm like, I have their fucking copy of her driver's license. Like, how the hell could I possibly lost that? So, another one, it was just like, I didn't have any information on the person. I didn't have a copy of their driver's license, nothing. I was like, oh, they booked it online. They showed up, they left, and then we won. I don't know if they just didn't follow back up with it.
That's typically what happens, is that they don't follow up and they'll lose that way.
Right.
I mean, being an online business and also people booking over the phone, we record the phone calls. So we create transcripts when we can't send them the information, like let's say their IP address that they use to book it in their device, but we capture all that. You know, one thing about disputes that used to really, when I got a dispute, a chargeback, I would get so upset because a lot of them were frivolous and they didn't even give us an opportunity to fix the situation. You call them up and they'll be like, oh yeah, I didn't see any dolphins on my trip. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You could have called me up and I probably could have got you on another trip. They always see dolphins, but it's those frivolous ones. And I get so, but now I really learned that I need to just, you know, it is what it is. There's always going to be that small percent of customers that do not care about your business. They don't care about what you do. It's all about them. They're very selfish. And you just got to understand, like, it's always going to be that small percent. Just like with reviews, you're never going to be 100%. You're not going to get 100% 5 stars. You're always going to have someone that does not see it the same way. They're disappointed. You could do everything right, and they're going to give you a 1-star review. I try to look at, am I pleasing the majority? You know, am I doing the right thing? And when I get those disputes, I take them as they come. But I also, when I'm negotiating with somebody, I really try hard to please them, no matter if it's a customer or a supplier. Like, we try to come in the middle and figure it all out. I look at the consequences. I want to get it taken care of right now. This person's probably going to drag me through this for the next few weeks, and I don't have time for that. Like, my time is more valuable. Like, what is your time really worth? Like, what you could be doing with that 1 hour?
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. You know, and it's going to depend on the day. It's going to depend on the week. You know, there's times where you're just like, yeah, man, just let it ride, you know, but it's like, I remember parasailing in Key West, man. And we would be like, we've been 4 days. We canceled everything. On day 5, they had to pull me off the boat and make me cancel the trip because I was like, fuck this, we're running. Like, we're going out. I don't give a shit. We are running. Like, let's go. And I mean, nothing dangerous, of course, but, you know, if it was like inclement and shitty, like, I just wanted to fly. And yeah, man, same thing now. It's like, man, you just get pounded so much, and it's like you just get to a point where you're just like, fuck it, we're rolling. You know what I mean? And then it's like, it's stupid. You're right. You know, it's like one of those things where you're just like a dog with a bone, and you're just like, no, you know, it becomes like emotional, and you cannot let it get emotional. Like you said, like, what is your time worth? But then again, like $25, yeah, $50 kayak paddleboard, something like that. I don't fucking give me money,
you know,
back.
You make a good point.
Alone.
It's an emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There's pride, there's emotion, there's a lot of things in there that you just got to set aside and be like, I got more important shit to do.
But I've had people that emailed me and said they had like a bad time or whatever. They drove out because of the good reviews, or, you know, something that my employee did. Like, if we deliver bad service, and like, if I have an employee that had like a bad interaction, my employee was like, oh, well, Kevin, they said this, they did that, and they acted like this, they acted like that. I'm like, no, you're wrong, man. Like, there's no point in your day-to-day interaction should you have said that or done that or fought with a customer. Like, you're 100% wrong. I don't care if they call you a motherfucker, you know. It's just, no, like, you're not going to fight with them, you know. And I, you know, it's like we talked about burnout before and getting exhausted and shit, and the employees are no different. They're human beings, and customers can be difficult and whatever, but, you know, if you're battling with a customer and a customer emails me and says like, yeah, your employee was rude to me, or they were, you know, wrong to me, and we expected this, and we just, all of these great things that we read about you, and we didn't see that, and we didn't get that. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let me make it up to you. How can I make this up to you? How can I make it better? You know, can I refund you? Can I give your money back? Can I give you a half day? Can I give you a full day? Whatever it was to make it better. But you know, when you're having these conversations, if the person's being like a reasonable, trying to get something for free, hold you hostage, or not. Like, again, it's just,
you know what I'm happy about? I'm happy about the technology with credit cards now, how when you refund somebody, The money usually goes back like the next day or sometimes same day. 10 years ago, when you refund somebody, it takes like 5 to 7 days to get back on. So the worst thing is when someone's on vacation, they booked an expensive trip, and then the weather cancels it. You give them the refund back, and they're calling you every hour because the money's not there. But since they used a debit card, it takes like several days to come back on. It still takes a few days, but it's not nearly as bad because the infrastructure of how the credit card processing network works, it's much quicker. That was a huge issue we had in the beginning. I mean, probably up to like a couple of years ago, was when giving refunds, having to wait that several days. Sometimes it got so bad with customers that we'd just be like, what's your PayPal ID? We're just going to give you the money right now because it got so ridiculous. But at the same time, like, you got to be careful with that because, you know, let's say that you give them the PayPal money. That's like just giving them cash. It's not easy to get that back because if they get let's say the refund doesn't go through, or it does go through, they dispute it, whatever. You could be out twice. I think there's a lot of really good technology now that makes giving refunds a lot faster, and it's good for customer service because they can get their money immediately and do something else with it. I try to move them to other activities when there's cancellations or refunds. We have the ability to do that at TripShock a lot easier than some of the independent the operators here.
The Google My Business from the lady came in on refund. Oh my God, dude. I hate these damn episodes when they like come to fruition like this. Son of a bitch. But there we go. So the lady who we were talking about in the beginning part of the show left me a 1-star review. Again, it's that they're holding you hostage, you know, and at that, just sometimes I'm going to eat the 1-star review because I'm not going to get bullied, you know, so you win some, you lose some.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just like Kevin says with their show, you just got to listen to us. Let us pontificate. Is that your word?
Yes,
and then decide what's best for your business. I've seen people be like super flexible, and then I've seen people be super hard up, and they're both like really successful. But you just have to see what works good for your operation, what feels good, what's the level of comfort you like with your customers. Some people love having like difficult conversations with customers. Like they get a high on it. Like they do. Like and then,
to win like an argument.
Yeah, exactly. Then there's some that just like they want everyone to walk out happy and they're going to get tons of refunds. Hey, I've seen like both spectrums because we work with just so many businesses and I see everyone's style, and I've seen it work very well in both environments. I see, but one thing I will say though, people that have really good brands, they are more flexible. The ones that have more like commodity-based businesses, they are less flexible. So
yeah, you gotta be flexible. You gotta put yourself in other people's shoes. But I mean, you're not gonna win them all. Like you're just not. And sometimes you gotta ask yourself, like, is $100, $150, $200 worth the bad review, or it's a constant like pushing. It's a push and pull, So
yeah.
You gotta all you can do is what's best for your business and best for your brand, and try and mitigate those refunds and mitigate those chargebacks and deal with it.
All right, well, that wraps it up for
the super quick episode.
The super quick episode. Yeah, we sat here and said we're going to do a 30-minute episode, and we're like, no, we just have to accept that we're never going to be able to do short episodes. I mean, we could have continued to talk about this for another hour, but anyways, let's continue the conversation. If you are part of our Facebook group, Watersports and Tour Professionals, get on there and post any questions or comments about how you guys do your refunds or chargebacks or cancellations. We love to hear more about it. And that wraps it up. And
certainly does.
All right, guys. Well, as always, thanks for listening, and keep it awkward.
You've been listening to the Awkward Watersport Guys podcast. If you're in the water sport industry, this is the podcast that brings the business perspective to parasailing, jet and ski boat rentals, sailing, snorkeling, and everything else. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. Be sure to sign up to our email list at watersportpodcast.com and subscribe in your favorite podcast app. We'll see you next time, and thanks for listening.